Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right into this one, because today we are looking at an absolutely fascinating slow burn anomaly from the corporate world. We're dissecting a really interesting case study from the office drama stories universe, and specifically, we're examining the fallout of a corporate leadership retreat. Now, a little context here, in this universe, the company we're looking at has recently gone through this massive, very public transparency overhaul. I mean, they went all out. They instituted a public memory wall, they drafted a memory charter to ensure accountability, the whole shebang. So on the surface, everyone thought, great, we've learned to choose the actual record over the water cooler rumors. But, well, you know how these things go, right? Real reform is literally never proven by the big, flashy public ceremony. No, it's tested by the very first ordinary, everyday object that nobody wants to explain. And that brings us directly to the core of today's explainer, a corporate leadership retreat that was designed explicitly to rebuild trust that somehow, magically, managed to produce absolutely zero official meeting minutes. Let's look at exactly how an incredibly boring administrative blank space turned into a massive red flag.
So the retreat was about rebuilding trust. Somehow nobody took minutes. Why? I mean, just let that sink in for a second. It's a real room-shrinking question, isn't it? Now, in a normal, healthy company, an agenda with no minutes attached to it might just be a simple clerical error. Someone forgot to hit save, or the intern lost the notepad. But for Maya Carter, she's the strategy lead, and Sofia Lane, an operations coordinator, this seemingly mundane administrative blank space was a glaring, blaring alarm bell. Because here's the thing about dangerous documents. They almost never look dangerous at first glance. They just look like routine, boring paperwork. When you're actively hunting for a corporate cover-up, the next danger isn't going to be some cartoon villain storming into a boardroom demanding people shred files. It's way more subtle than that. It's a quiet little workflow change. It's an empty folder on the shared drive. It's a missing signature where one usually sits. Maya and Sofia immediately recognized that the old, toxic corporate habits were trying to sneak right back into the building through documents that just looked way too boring for anyone to bother questioning.
And right on cue, as if reading from a script, the official explanation drops, and it is polished in the most pristine corporate speak you can imagine. Quote, "The retreat was reflective, not operational, so minutes were unnecessary." End quote. That's straight from the executive office. It sounds so calm, doesn't it? So reasonable. It uses all that soft, cushy language HR loves. Words like alignment and healing and culture reset, and of course, reflective. But make no mistake, this is a classic shield. It relies entirely on this old, incredibly flawed belief that showing trust means you don't have to write things down. The executive leadership is heavily leaning on this concept of a fresh start to basically dodge basic memory and documentation. But as Elise, who is an independent board member in our case study, as she so brilliantly points out, closure without memory isn't closure at all. It's literally just a new cover page on the exact same old book.
So to put that into perspective, this is the divide we are dealing with here. On the left side, we have the fresh start narrative. This is that soft, comfortable story being heavily pushed by the reputation consultants and the executives. It's all about healing. It's about business continuity. It's perfectly designed to make everyone feel warm and fuzzy, and most importantly, to make them stop asking questions. But over on the right side, that's the reality. Maya's audit team deeply suspects that beneath all that beautifully polished narrative is a highly dangerous reality of undocumented decisions, zero accountability, and completely hidden actions. They realize the company is basically trying to replace actual, tangible transparency with just the feeling of transparency. And the audit team, well, they decide they need to rip off that fresh start cover page and read the actual text underneath.
Section 1. Reading the fine print. Where the truth hides. So the big question becomes, how do you actually fight a polished peer narrative? Well, you don't fight it with loud arguments. You start with the part that looks incredibly, painfully boring. And this is exactly where Sofia Lane steps up. Remember, Sofia is a newer employee, and honestly, that is absolutely her greatest advantage in this entire scenario. She hasn't been there long enough to learn which questions the old, toxic corporate culture considers inconvenient. She actually still believes the rulebook is meant to be read. So she starts digging into the tiny digital clues that literally everyone else scrolls past. We're talking metadata changes, routing notes, owner fields, completely ignored footnotes. She starts asking really simple, basic operational questions. Things like, hey, who actually changed this file? When exactly did it change? Who approved that specific change? Now, these are the exact types of questions that veteran employees avoid when they know the answer is going to have a powerful name attached to it. But Sofia's willingness to just put her head down and look at the fine print, that's what begins to pierce right through that thick corporate fog. And Sophia's digging perfectly feeds into a brilliant methodology that Maya puts together, which she calls her proof map. See, Maya is smart. She knows you don't chase people, you follow systems. Because people will lie, people will deflect, people will deny things. But systems absolutely do not care. They just record. Notice the incredibly logical flow she sets up here. Step 1, identify the object. In this case, the missing minutes. Step 2, find the owner of that specific object. Step 3, check the exact timestamp of any changes made to it. Step 4, determine the beneficiary. Who actually benefits from this change being made? Maya maps this entire thing out. It's like a giant puzzle, and she understands that you don't need louder opinions to win a corporate argument. You don't need to shout. You just need a clean, undeniable mathematical path from the action straight to the owner. If you place the records in chronological order, they basically start confessing long before anyone in the room actually opens their mouth.
But of course, the moment you start building a watertight proof map, the system is going to push back. But here is the fascinating thing about toxic office pushback. It rarely ever sounds like an actual threat. Adrian Vale, the transformation officer, pulls them aside and issues this warning. Be careful not to turn every inconsistency into a crisis. Wow. I mean, it arrives so softly, doesn't it? It completely frames this deliberate cover-up as just a simple, innocent little inconsistency. It arrives disguised as friendly career advice, like a plea for workplace stability. It's this incredibly insidious suggestion that good, mature leaders know exactly when to stop asking questions because, hey, the company has already suffered enough, right? It's a highly calculated move to shut down the inquiry by making the investigators feel like they are the ones being unreasonable and causing drama. But Maya's response to this is absolutely perfect. She says, truth is not damage. Hiding it was.
Moving on to Section 2, the background records. Invisible work leaves footprints. Okay, so to prove that this retreat was actually operational and not just reflective, like the brass claimed, the team realizes they need to look at the invisible infrastructure of the office itself. Enter Nina Ross, the executive assistant. And Nina is a real game changer here because she implicitly understands something most executives forget. People who treat administrative work as invisible completely forget that this invisible work sees absolutely everything. Nina casually brings out calendar exports, draft notes, catering receipts for meeting spaces, and lobby visitor logs. Think about this. The executives swore up and down that nothing operational happened at this retreat, but the background records are practically screaming otherwise. Rooms were booked for various specific strategic blocks. Drafts of highly operational plans were sent to the printer. Vendor calls were scheduled. By pulling these mundane background records, Nina proves that the official explanation from the executive office isn't just, a little inaccurate, it completely falls apart. As Nina perfectly puts it, these little details don't make the explanation smaller, they make the actual truth way larger. Now, to completely lock this evidence down, they need the raw system data. And this is where IT audit specialist Jordan Price steps into the ring. And I love this part because there is no Hollywood hacker mystique going on here. The truth isn't some cinematic hack with green code raining down a dark screen while someone types furiously. It is literally just a cold, boring, undeniable chronological sequence. Step 1, user logged in. Step 2, field changed. Step 3, route approved. Jordan pulls the raw server logs, the access fields, and the device MAC records. When one of the executives desperately tries to claim that these logs need interpretation or lack context, Jordan just shuts it right down. Because raw system exports don't interpret anything, they just record the sequence of events. It completely strips away all the corporate emotion, all the spin, and leaves absolutely nothing but the undeniable, hard facts. And the real turning point of this whole investigation is reached when Aisha Morgan, an analyst on the team, asks this pivotal, room-shrinking question. Who benefits if this stays classified as harmless? Up until this exact moment, the room was desperately trying to move the conversation from facts over to feelings, because feelings are exactly where toxic cultures love to hide. It's so much easier to argue about whether people feel aligned. But Aisha's question? It brilliantly forces the entire narrative away from those corporate feelings, away from the fluffy healing rhetoric, and points the spotlight directly toward motive. It demands that they stop treating HR procedure as a hiding place and start looking at who actually profits from keeping everyone else in the dark. Section 3. The corporate theater. Facts versus feelings.
So this all sets the scene for the formal review meeting. The audit team has their proof map built, and the executives are about to realize that their highly polished excuses are just not going to cut it anymore. During this formal review, the executives really try to perform their way out of it. It's true corporate theater. They start softening their verbs. They rename their choices as strategic pivots. They plead for good optics.
basically playing the roles of careful executives and tired legal voices just trying to keep the peace. But then Sofia drops a massive, undeniable piece of evidence. She reveals that she found action items directly from the retreat already assigned in private locked task boards the very next morning. Boom. There it is, the absolute undeniable proof. I mean, come on, you do not assign concrete action items in private task boards before the office even wakes up if a retreat was purely reflective and about feelings. The whole fresh start narrative was a complete lie, designed specifically to cover up a highly operational meeting that they just didn't want to officially document or be held accountable for.
The executives obviously try to push back and scramble for cover, but the stronger the actual record becomes, the quieter Maya becomes. It's brilliant. One piece of paper closes one excuse, one timestamp closes another, and the entire confrontation culminates in this absolute, definitive checkmate for Maya. She looks at them and says, "I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to trust the record you created." She completely flips the script. She uses the altered records themselves as the ultimate weapon against the cover-up. If the executives try to claim the record was changed improperly, Maya just smiles and points out that the change itself becomes the new evidence. She isn't fighting their opinions or trying to win a shouting match. She is literally just standing back and letting their own digital footprints do the entire job for her. Which brings us to Section 4, writing the repair, because systemic fixes always outlast apologies. So you have to ask, how do you actually fix a culture that actively tries to hide its decisions like this? Well, the executives, caught completely red-handed, predictably offer a quiet, private apology. They just want to make the discomfort go away as quickly and quietly as possible. But Maya, along with HR manager Linda and the rest of the team, they flat out refuse. Because private fixes only make executives comfortable while leaving all future employees completely exposed to the exact same behavior. You cannot quietly fix what can publicly teach. A genuinely repaired workplace has to write its lessons directly into the system itself. So Elise Warren, the independent board member, steps in and institutes a brand new systemic definition, the 24-hour rule. From now on, any leadership session creating actions must publish decision notes within 24 hours, period. They don't just punish the specific individuals involved, they take the discovered cover-up and turn it into lasting institutional protection. They write a highly visible control directly into the workflow while everyone is still sweating and uncomfortable. They make the process leave heavy footprints so that this specific shortcut becomes practically impossible to repeat in the future.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to focus on this immensely powerful core takeaway. The record did not raise its voice. It simply waited for someone patient enough to read it. What you should really take away from all of this is that a safe, functioning workplace isn't built on constant, exhausting heroism. It doesn't become safe just because a few brave people keep having to jump in to rescue the truth from the fire. No, an organization becomes truly safe when the truth no longer needs anyone's permission to appear. It relies entirely on undeniable records, systemic transparency, and the quiet patience of people like Maya, Sofia, and Nina, people who are actually willing to sit down and read the boring fine print that absolutely everyone else ignores. Which leads me to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought for today. When your workplace has a conflict, does it leave a record? I want you to really think about that. Does your organization rely on quiet, behind-closed-doors chats and undocumented alignment meetings, or does it genuinely value the footprints of truth? Think about your own office's relationship with transparency. Are the real decisions happening out in the open, or are they hiding in the blank, undocumented spaces of an agenda? If this explainer made you think twice about how your own workplace operates, well, you know exactly what to start looking for tomorrow morning. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep your eyes on the record. Catch you next time.